Alright, this video series, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be more than 15 minutes, so it's going to be different parts. But I'm going to express my real thoughts, my real comments on Bruce Lee after having read the book Fighting Words by Bruce Thomas and Fighting Spirit by Bruce Thomas. Both books are written by Bruce Thomas, and it's about Bruce Lee. I read both books in about 2 days. And real thoughts, meaning positive and I guess negative. So I'm going to be straightforward and real about it. First, the Fighting Words book I didn't read. That was the first time that I read that one. But the Fighting Spirit, I read that like over 10 years ago, and this is going to be the second time that I read it 10 years later. So reading it 10 years later, I've grown and I've matured since that time, and I have more of a clear perspective than I did back then. So it's nice to read something after such a long time and evaluate the way you think about it. I mean, the person that wrote this book is not John Little. John Little is the one who is typically the main person that's attributed to Bruce Lee's, authentic writings. And John Little's the one that edits it and came out with a lot of volumes with Bruce Lee's authentic writings. This other guy, Bruce Thomas, is just basically a fan of Bruce Lee who went out to research and speak to other people that knew Bruce Lee and got their perspectives. So he seemed to have interviewed a lot of different people that have been friends with Bruce Lee and have encountered Bruce Lee, and basically expresses their account. So what I noticed just now, or just a few days ago, is that John Little, in addition, to obviously Linda Lee, or Cadwell, her name is now, Bruce's wife, former wife, or widow, they would only speak the positive about Bruce, mainly. They both would only show the positive side of his life. And it ends up giving you an unclear picture into distorting the reality. Because with everybody, there's always going to be the positives and the negatives. And they would only express the positives, and if you don't read anything else or encounter anything else that shows the opposite, then you're not getting the full picture of the human being. You're only getting half of it. And as a younger person, I didn't really think about that. And I didn't realize that, that when you only see one side, then you get a very distorted vision. You end up thinking that the person is a superhuman, or somebody that's basically like a hero, when really in reality every person is a human and everybody has their weaknesses or things, aspects of themselves that they need to develop. And basically John Little and Linda would fail to express that other side of Bruce to give people the full picture. And obviously they're going to want to give the positive because it's money motivated. They're going to want to promote and further Bruce Lee's legendary status. And make him out to be like someone, I guess, almost promoting people to worship him, so then more money could be generated and his reputation could be built up even more, even further. And obviously money is involved, they're making money, so there is no benefit for them to express any type of negativity about him. They want to only express the positives. It's kind of like when somebody dies and you're at the funeral, everybody's always speaking just the positive. You know, you would never really ever hear anybody speaking negatively about the person, because the person just died. You know, everybody's gonna say, you know, this person was a great person to be around, always happy and smiling, but they're not gonna speak the negatives because the person's died. But in the reality, there's always the positive and the negative. So what I'm saying is that these books by Bruce Thomas, they show a little bit of the negative, so then you could get more of a clearer picture of the real Bruce Lee, and not get too stuck in that state of immature mentality of where you end up worshipping idols and things of that nature. So what I see from Bruce Lee is that anything that I say that may seem to be negative is not meant to be disrespectful towards him. It's not meant to downplay his accomplishments, or in any way to speak down on him. My way of expressing part of the negative is to really hit home and make people realize the reality of him as a human being. You know, having people see him as a human being rather than idolizing him. Now, I fell into that idolization as a child, but as an adult, as more of a mature adult, I was able to break free from it. But even still, even to this time, to this age, it's hard not to get drawn to him, because he was such a charismatic individual that you could easily find yourself going back in into that childish idolization of Bruce Lee. So what I view Bruce to be in my life is similar to, I view him more like a father figure. Like, not really being too close to my biological father. I searched for father figures through role models, and first it was Michael Jordan, and then came Bruce Lee. Became like more of like a role model, kind of like a father figure to kind of follow, to help guide me towards bettering myself. So with that in mind, with Bruce Lee having accomplished so many great things through his life, I also realized that he's not perfect. There's certain things about him that could have been improved. And with that, I know that potentially I myself can go beyond him, and take myself to an even higher level than he did to himself. Now, I'm not saying that in the sense of thinking that I'm better than him, but what I'm saying is that any father should always be proud if they have a son, or if they can inspire somebody to become greater than what they've been able to become. So I say that out of respect, not out of hatred and jealousy and envy of Bruce Lee and hating him and wanting to be better than him. I don't say it in that token. I say it in the sense of where obviously I highly respect him and what he's accomplished and done for the society. But what I say is that analyzing his life more thoroughly, I truthfully believe that I could go beyond him and others can go beyond him. Not just in the sense of being a greater fighter or a greater martial artist, but in general, a greater human being. So, what they're saying, what he was saying in the books, for example, is that Bruce Lee, he was out there for fame. That was his main ambition, was to get famous. He even told his mother that he was going to be one of the most famous Oriental figures in the world, that his name was going to be as common as the word Coca-Cola. And come to believe it, he ended up achieving that fame. So he was out there for fame. He had very much ambition to be famous. And throughout his life, he was trying so hard to get famous. And when you wish to be famous, what that entails is that you have to mold to the people around you. You have to gain other people's approval in order to feel a sense of happiness and confidence from within. And that is an unspiritual way of living. So I'd say that Bruce Lee, Linda, his wife, his widow, after Bruce died, she married this man, another man. I forgot the man's name, but in the book, the guy was saying a lot of negative things about Bruce. A lot of negative. And it was kind of, you could kind of sense a lot of hatred and jealousy and envy, because all he was speaking was all negative. Now, when people speak so negative about someone, you kind of wonder if it's even true, because he was just all saying all negative. But if somebody's saying something positive and saying something negative, then it's more likely to be true, because he's looking on both sides of the coin. But when somebody's speaking all negative, you kind of wonder if what he's saying is even true. But what he was saying, for example, was that he didn't respect Bruce Lee as a philosopher. He didn't respect Bruce Lee to be somebody that was wise or intelligent. He was saying that Bruce Lee is like a fortune cookie philosopher, that he didn't live up to what he was trying to teach in as far as the realm of philosophy is concerned. And he was saying that Bruce Lee dropped out of college, and he was not wise and whatever. Well, really, what I say is that he definitely is one of the wisest martial artists that ever lived, because martial artists to begin with are not that wise. Fighters are probably, some of the most unintelligent people you ever meet. And then martial artists, first of all, there's not that many martial artists out there to begin with. But those that are martial artists, they're not that intelligent. So for Bruce Lee to be compared to other martial artists or other fighters, he would be considered pretty intelligent. But if you compare him to, intellectuals like Socrates and Albert Einstein, Bruce Lee would not be considered nearly even close to their level. Or Jesus, he would not be close to their level at all. So it really depends on who you're comparing it to. And also, just because somebody drops out of college does not mean that they're unwise or they're not smart. But at the same token, he dropped out. Other people that are able to go through it and obtain a degree in a sense, could be considered at a higher level.